Okay, so A Town Called Malice by The Jam. That opening riff sounds easy, kind of. Then you try and play it. Seems like it should be easy, but there's something frustratingly tricky about it. Getting the right feel, the picking pattern, and just making it sound good. So what's going on? Well, I've spent a couple of hours going over and over this riff, watching live versions, watching the original video, extracting the audio, listening at a bunch of different speeds, and I'm still a little unsure. But let's look at it anyway, and I'll share what I've discovered. So that riff is a full-blown Motown throwback. Bruce Foxton plays it with a pick and a ton of conviction. For the few of you out there that don't know, Bruce is a great, great bass player. Everything he plays has drive, melody, and a fabulous feel. This riff is in D, and it sounds like this. So for the notes, it's all pretty straightforward. We just have 3 Ds there, 5th fret of the A string, and then we come down, B to A, 7th fret to the 5th fret on the E string. Then we jump back up to the D, 5th fret of the A string, and again we've got 3 Ds. Then B, A, B to bring us back round. Okay, so that's going to be 7th, 5th, and 7th fret on the E string. And that's all there is to it. You just have to get the rhythm right. Now, first things first, we have to deal with the feel. This song is about 201 beats per minute, so we're counting roughly around 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But it has a swing feel. Now, when you play swing rhythms at faster tempos, especially consecutive 8th notes, it's common for musicians to straighten up the rhythm a little. So at that fast tempo, if I count straight 8th notes, we're going to have something like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. With swing 8th notes, we would have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So you get that jerky. It doesn't flow as well. So in playing faster swing rhythms, you want to actually straighten them up a little. Not quite back to fully straight, but to all intents and purposes, you want to probably think straight as you play. So at a little bit of a slower tempo, instead of this, we get this. That's straight. So then moving into the technique, for the left hand, it's all pretty straightforward. You can either play like Bruce with the 1st and 3rd fingers, so index and ring, or like I do with the 1st and 4th fingers, so index and pinky. Either way is fine, it doesn't make any difference. For me, it's just habit to play with those fingers, and it feels much cleaner for me as a technique. But like I said, it doesn't matter. Whatever works for you. But now we come to the contentious aspect of the riff, the picking. Now, if you want to play this with fingers, there's no mystery. It's very easy and straightforward. So you can just pluck those Ds on the A string with the 1st finger. And then one simple way to deal with the E string is to rake down. So when we move down onto that 7th fret of the E string, you rake with that 1st finger. Play with the middle finger for when we move down to the A. Then we're back up to the D again with the 1st finger. Then when we move back down to the E string again, it's just 2, 1, 2. So. And that's it, so. Easy. Now, if you're playing with a pick, like Bruce, this is where the mystery begins. The most obvious way, and the way that you probably all already play this, is to play downstrokes for the 3 Ds there on the A string. So down, down, down. Then we have up when we move down onto the E string. Then down for the A, and then upstroke when we return to the A string. Okay, then 2 downstrokes. So. And then when we come back down onto the E string, we move on the upstroke again. So it's up, down, up, and then that brings us back onto the downstroke to begin the riff again. Back on the downstroke. So all of that very slowly. So that's how I've always played it, and it works, no problem, but I have had a few comments in the TalkingBass chat rooms asking about this riff and how it can give people problems. And a lot of the problems that people have are not the kind of things that I would have had problems with because of the way that I played it. So I watched how Bruce plays it, I've looked at a bunch of different videos, and that's where I got pretty confused. So it's really hard to see how exactly Bruce plays this on all of the available footage, but there are a few things that I have noticed. For one thing, the last 3 notes on the E string are all downstrokes. That is obvious to see. So that gives us this kind of sound. So, notice how it has a lot of drive with those incessant downstrokes. And this can be tricky to play if you're not an experienced pick player. One tip that I can give is to think of the attack there more like you're hitting the string rather than plucking across it. So use the wrist to create that attack, and it'll obviously still move across the string after the hit, but you get more downstroke speed with that wrist attack, and you can see that's how Bruce often plays. I think it's one of the reasons for that driving, incessant feel in his playing. It's more of a punk aesthetic more than Motown. So then we can address the opening to the riff. Now, because I could see those downstrokes at the end of the riff, I wondered if he was just using downstrokes for the whole thing, like this. But no! If you look at his playing on the original video, he's barely doing anything. There's hardly any movement in the picking hand, and he's definitely picking with a downstroke when he returns to the A string. Now with an upstroke for the E string, bringing us back with a downstroke on the A string, that means we have down, down, and then down, then up, down, and down again to come back. So after the move down to the E string, you're going to have upstroke, down, down, and back. Okay, now that can feel a little bit odd because we've got those 2 downstrokes. We've got an upstroke, then 2 downstrokes. But that is probably what he's playing. So in terms of the whole riff, if we play it like that, that gives us... So the only upstroke in the whole thing is going to be that first B on the E string. Down, 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 up, down, 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 down. Okay? All downstrokes apart from that B. Now, when I was analysing the video, I must admit I couldn't see that upstroke at first. And I'm still debating whether it's there. To me, it looks like a whole bunch of nicely spaced downstrokes. And this did lead me to wonder if Bruce was using a hammer-on in there for the B. So that would be... So just hammering down with whichever finger out of nowhere for the B. Now that does give you a very fluid bounce in there. So... I do actually like that way of playing it. Is he doing that? I don't know. But it does give you a nice fluid move into the A. So there, down, 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 hammer on, out of nowhere. Just bring that finger down, whether it's the 3rd or the 4th finger, onto that 7th fret of the E string, and then either down pick or up pick for the A. Now, I am very skeptical about this. It's not an obvious thing to do. It does give a more fluid bounce, like I said, to the riff and makes for much easier picking. But I just don't know if that's the kind of thing that Bruce Foxton would do. It's a little unorthodox. But I have to say, on the live videos, It is really hard to see if he's playing an upstroke in there. It does all look very sparse in the picking department. Let me know what you think. Even if it's not how he plays it, it might be an interesting thing for some of you to try. So the way that Bruce picks it is probably, most likely, going to be with those, downstrokes everywhere apart from that upstroke on the B. So that is probably the way that he plays it. But there are also a bunch of other different ways. I mean, one way that might help you a lot with dealing with that end phrase on the E string is to use a hammer-on from the A to the B. So you could have... So, hammer-on, so you pick the A, and then hammer-on on the B. Which, if you combine with the hammer-on for the B in that first line, you get this kind of effect. Okay, so there's not as much picking going on. It's a much easier way of playing it at high speed. So... maybe Bruce is playing it like that. I doubt it. Like I say, I am skeptical, but that is another way to play it. But let's face it, so long as you play the right notes with the right feel, it doesn't really matter how you play it or how Bruce played it. But it is interesting to sometimes deep dive into the techniques that someone actually uses in creating the original line. They're often very different to how you might instinctively play it, and every now and then you can gain an insight into how a player achieves a certain feel. So give me a like if this has helped. Let me know if you like the new backdrop. I've gone for blue this week instead of the green of last week. Also remember to subscribe if you haven't already. There are over 750 free bass lessons here on the channel, and I've released one nearly every Friday for the last 11 years. So plenty of lessons to dive into and many more to come. So subscribe, comment, and give me a like, and I'll see you next week.